Greetings, Legionnaires! Jimmy here with a little The Force Awakens commentary. Yes, I wanted to watch this film before going to see The Last Jedi, and I figured if you wanted to watch it, well, we could watch it together, kind of. Well, I mean, I'm watching it by myself, but you're watching it, with me, which is great. If you've never been to one of these things before, basically, it'll just be me talking up, so you're going to have to kind of line up the movie. I'm going to let you know when we're starting off here. But starting her up, Lucasfilm, LTD, all shiny, beautiful, greatness. Yes. And then a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. Crazy to think one phrase could hold so much meaning. Get so many people amped. There we go. There's that title. So I'll kind of walk you guys through my general thoughts on things, maybe give you a few little behind-the-scenes things about this film as we go through here. Episode 7, man. Crazy to think we've come this far. Oh, man. Luke Skywalker has vanished. See, right from the get-go, they tell you. They're like, Luke is probably not going to be here for a bit. So one thing that does kind of bug me about this film is that they've changed the name of a lot of these things to just, I don't know if it's like a marketing thing or whatever. So, for instance, the Empire is turned into like the First Order, and then the Rebellion has become the Resistance. It's just like, okay, I just wish you would have kept the same names, but that's just me. This crawl. I love this crawl. It's good. It just kind of puts you right into Star Wars. It's like, hey, welcome back. And it's crazy because a lot of people don't really like that whole, like if a new film were to write out something now, people are like, I have to do reading. Like in Star Wars, people are like, oh, cool. It's big type font, yellow, it's in the stars. This iconic music too, the John Williams score, and then him coming back to do this is such a good get. You need to have John Williams. He is integral, I think, personally, to the success of Star Wars. Just wouldn't be the same without him. But something they started in Rogue One, they do not have in this movie, but these establishing shots of the planets, they don't give you the names or anything, so you're just kind of, okay, where the heck are we? Little Star Destroyer action. The scariest triangle. Now, you guys will probably hear me comment on this a few different times, but the director of this, J.J. Abrams, who also did the new trilogy of Star Trek, he did the first two of those. You kind of notice a lot of similarities in the shooting style, filming. New Stormtroopers. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of like how the visor kind of bleeds into the rest of the mask like that. Like the black around it seems kind of like those like emo teardrop thing. I don't know. I could be alone on this, but and there he is, BB-8. Oh man, what a cool concept for a droid. I kind of, we've only had a little bit of him so far, but I like him a lot comparatively to like R2. Okay. If you say so, sir. Oh, Poe Dameron. I love him. He's great. Now there's a little Leia nod there. I kind of like little bamboo curtains. That's kind of weird. Whatever that is. Now, with this trilogy, too, it seems like going forward here, they kind of return to the gritty griminess of the old ones. I kind of like it. It's not as nice and futuristic-y as the prequel trilogy was. This intro and a lot of this film has a lot of similarities to A New Hope, kind of here, instead of boarding a ship, kind of attacking a planet and coming in hot. But it's nice to see a Star Wars start with the wars, getting right down to it. Now, I've heard that they bought up a ton of different, like, gas cans to put into the guns themselves, so the blasters, when they fire them, they actually have a kickback. A little more realistic. Shot of the new version of the X-Wing, by the way, too. Very cool. A little more sleek and sharp. There we go. Some stormtroopers that actually hit something, the broadside of an X-wing, which is surprising. Yeah, that's some good aim there, Poe. No, not the S-foil servo actuator. I'm just kidding. I'm not sure if that's really what it is, but I have an X-wing diagram T-shirt, and I think that's what it says. I get a shot here. See that flame trooper, kind of alluding or paying homage maybe to the fact of what happened to Luke's Uncle Owen family, kind of being burned alive in A New Hope. Oh, poor BB-8. Yeah. Doing work. Now here we get the introduction of Finn. Kind of odd. Also, I didn't realize that blasters could bleed people, or maybe something else happened. Just to show and signify which one of these troopers is Finn the whole time. But he's like, "Oh no, I'm a bad person. Stormtroopers aren't good people." Flamethrower in the back there. I dig the flamethrower. And that kind of heavy the horn theme, I should say there. Thorn. No, John Williams. I really like that. Kind of paying a little homage to Imperial March there, but old Kylo Ren coming in hot, making his Darth Vader-esque appearance. Really hoping to see an evolution of this character moving into Last Jedi. I like his design. Not as imposing as Vader, of course, but... Ooh, burn. Where did he get that name is my question. Did he just give himself that name? Yeah, show us. Huh, interesting. It looked like he had that ignited before he brought it up. You see kind of like a red glare underneath, but a cool show of his ruthlessness and his abilities here, which I appreciate. Kind of something we haven't ever really seen before is like a blaster frozen in midair that way. Now I like this shot, or this scene here, because it kind of adds a little levity to the situation. Apparatus. Ah, there's Phasma. Ugh. Does nothing in this movie. He's pretty ruthless here. He's like, I just can't do it. Kylo Ren's kind of this interesting amalgamation of look. You got the Darth Vader and kind of the Darth Sidious vibe to him with the hood and stuff. I really like it, actually. And I do like the look of his sword. I like the crossblade of the crossguard. I think that's really cool. Just blowing up X-Wings. They're like, nope, nobody's escaping on this thing. BB-8 again. An homage, giving something special to a droid on a desert planet and having them try to find a person to figure it out. Big old Star Destroyers. I do love the look of a Star Destroyer. Something about them. Just great. That's the thing about all of these ships. They're all pretty iconic. They introduce a few new ones here and there, and they're fine, but, not the same as, like, the TIE fighters and things like that. Yeah, little mouse droid there. Mm-hmm. This blood-stained face thing is a little less now. Now, I'm not sure if they allude to this, but I think this isn't the first time he's had problems with this. At the same time, it is very kind of strange that he's finally getting these issues of being a stormtrooper and saying, wow, I'm actually doing bad things to people. Here we come in on our protagonist for the film, Rey. A lot of people like Rey. I'm not going to say I despise Rey. It's not that. I'm just really hoping she becomes a little more fleshed out again, like Kylo in the sequel here. Because in this movie, she's pretty bland. She kind of is able to do everything. Doesn't really need help so much, which is fine. But in a movie that's usually about an ensemble cast and people helping each other out, she doesn't really seem to need much help. I do love the fact that she is stuck here on this desert planet that has seen a gigantic battle. It is kind of annoying seeing, another desert planet again, but they try to kind of shake it up, here with a little sand sliding, as it were, a little sledding. But seeing that Star Destroyer down here, it's kind of like, okay, what's the story? What happened here? I want to know about that, because on Tatooine, you never thought about that. You're just kind of like, it's just a desert planet. People live here. But in this one, it's like, okay. All right, there's something went down here. But, of course, not really a big part of this movie at all. Kind of that interesting little light theme to Rey there. Kind of hummingbird-like. TIE fighter wing back there, X-wing there, another Star Destroyer stuck in the sand. Definitely could find some good stuff on there. Love to see what the planet the end of Rogue One looks like on Scarif, There we go, a little shot of some of the more practical effects we have in this one, which is great. They definitely try to push that a little bit more. Still some CGI, obviously, but nice to see a return there with some of these costumes and characters. Probably could have parked a little bit closer to this, but, she wants to drag it, that's fine. Like that guy, look at him, he looks great. It's like, get back to cleaning. I believe that is Simon Pegg, who you'd recognize probably from a bunch of other films, but more importantly, Star Trek, the newer ones. Playing that big fella right there. You'd never know it, though. Moisture farming. Would have been easy to throw another sun in there, but it would have been too Tatooine-like, I think. A little much. So she's been there for a bit. One major difference you'll see here, comparing, maybe not major, but difference between her and Luke is that she doesn't have a family to grow up with here. She is pretty much all on her own. So maybe that's one of the reasons why when we first meet her, she's so much more independent. She kind of do everything. It's because she's had to do everything. She has to learn how to fight and pilot and do all these things alone because she's been alone for most of her entire life. eating weird bread things. I don't know why she puts this rubble helmet on. It's fine. It's just like, why would she do it? She's like it. Right by an AT-AT. Again, would have been cool to see this fight. Hopefully we'll maybe see it one day. I know that's featured like in some of the Battlefront games, but... BB-8, the really great thing about him, unlike R2, is that a little motion like that can say so much. You just kind of turn around just like, what the? You know, kind of thing. Also seems like a lot in the Star Wars world, if you just yell at somebody enough, like another alien species, they will leave you alone. BB-8 just looking at her, like, looks so innocent, you know. I know it's a robot, but still. The fact that she can understand him in so many languages, that's always something that's baffled me in Star Wars, how they just, seems like a lot of people can speak like 4 or 5 languages. Just impressive, I guess, maybe. Kind of a little purring thing right there by BB-8. Who wouldn't want BB-8 to go? Like, look at how excited he is. Such a good job of conveying emotion through this medium. I just really impressive. And he's just one like big sphere with just like a little tiny lid on it, basically. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of Poe. Just bleeding. It's kind of weird, but... I love it. I'm like a smug protagonist, especially when you're being chained up and tortured. Another thing that's impressive with the Star Wars franchise, I've always thought, is the ability to have the Force in it and it just be a noise, but nothing else is happening right now. Like, these guys are just acting, you know? It's impressive. Just like, no CGI effect on it, just... It's good. And in the first 2 scenes we've seen Kylo, he's displayed multiple force moves that we haven't seen before. Stopping a blaster in midair like that and being able to kind of force torture somebody is stuff we haven't really seen to this extent unless you're using lightning or things like that. I like how he's kind of lowballing her on the portions, but he really just wants the droid because he recognizes that it's probably a good thing. Everyone else like, whoa, you're getting paid in food and that much food? Tempting. But he does the little purr thing? How are you gonna get rid of him, huh? Just closing up shop for the day. He's like, I'm done. This change of heart from Finn is very convenient for Poe, which is fine for me just because I like Poe a lot. Confidence, I love it. See, I like that because Poe immediately kind of says, like, yeah, I think you're BSing me, man. Like, you just need a pilot to get out of here. I would love a standalone with Poe. He's just cool. He's like Han Solo, kind of mixed a little bit with Luke Skywalker as far as like the piloting capabilities. Just his excitement to be in a TIE fighter, and when he starts talking about how it handles really crazily and that he kind of digs it. I love it. Best laid plans, you know? I remember watching the trailer and thinking, oh, wow, TIE fighter is like attacking like its own hangar. But now we know why. You think with all that advanced technology and a Wilhelm scream, you know, to add on there, but that they would make it so it's impossible for TIE fighters to fire in their own hangar. But there you go. Take out the bridge. That iconic noise of the TIE fighter. Yeah. The banking capability of a TIE fighter. Oh, so cool. And even though Poe's never flown one of these before, you can tell that there's a lot of similarities probably between this and an X-Wing as far as piloting goes, and you know, he just adapts to it immediately, and it's just very cool because like, okay, that's his skill. His thing is flying. That's all he's good at. Yeah, Finn has a few lines in this that are kind of grating, that don't feel very Star Warsy like that. You know, where he says like, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" And there'll be another one later on. I promise you. I wish that we could have gotten a little more backstory on Finn. Maybe we'll get that later on the line. Kind of like, did he grow up like as a baby in, you know, the First Order? I don't know. Hux is kind of freaky. Apparently his outfit is based on a combination of kind of old school Nazi garb and like naval academy stuff. Or just naval officer. Interesting pan around shots with the camera there that are pretty cool. Within the actual TIE fighter itself. But they probably shot it all on a green screen anyway, so. If only they would have been paying attention. Phasma's kind of like a Power Ranger. Kind of do the moving or with the chin there. Oh, there you go. His first defense, but yeah. So I just don't get it why Finn now is having that change of heart. It just seems a little too convenient. Not saying he's the worst character. I just think that there needs to be a little more there. Character motivations are big with me. So I like to think of this whole sequence of, Finn being in full stormtrooper armor on the planet of Jakku, like this big desert, like how horribly warm and hot it would be and disgusting. Get out of there, man. That's what I say. It's like, oh, there we go. But at least he got his jacket. How Poe survived that? Still. He got thrown from the wreckage, they say. I think. A little more of the meandering through the desert that you got on A New Hope. For some odd reason, this movie seems like it just doesn't want to leave this planet. It's like you go away and then you come right back to it. Now, I guess the question people might have for me is like, oh, Jimmy, what other planet would you like? Would you like it to be more Hoth-like, where it's all snowy? Like a jungle planet? I don't know, just pick something else. Just you kind of double down on the desert planets. Not saying that there couldn't be more than one. Obviously, there would be probably in a gigantic galaxy. But still, it's just a little too on the nose for me personally. Thank goodness he chose the right direction to walk in. I love the look of the Imperial stuff, or the First Order stuff, Just kind of just all dark black and red, but like hard edges. It's great. Little Imperial infighting then, or First Order, I should say, infighting. Yeah, see, at this point, I wouldn't care either. Pretty interesting design, too, of this big thing, just smashing its face in the water. Just doesn't even care. He's like, yeah, whatever. Here's another fun little subversion of expectation, though, that we get with her, is that at first you kind of look at her and you're like, oh no, she's under attack. It's like, oh gosh, she's probably going to need assistance from this guy. But then you see, oh, she's actually a pretty competent fighter. Just beaten down with a steel pipe. He's like, okay. They did make mention back there about their stormtroopers kind of programmed from birth. Again, I would like to know like what it was maybe back in Finn's childhood that maybe set him off the path of being just a obedient stormtrooper. She can kind of teleport too. It's a new power. Now, one theory before going in to see The Last Jedi is that Rey is the daughter or granddaughter of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because he was like the only other kind of British-speaking Jedi, primarily, or that British accent, I should say. Kind of a loose connection, but still, there are some people in the Empire though who did have British accents as well. I feel like they overdo a little bit on Finn's kind of humor. Might just be the writing, but it is fun how Luke's name is kind of legendary around the galaxy. It's kind of, if you say his name, like, oh, Luke Skywalker, Luke Skywalker. Again, going against the tropes here. Like, like we don't have to hold hands here to run together. Still, it's really cool to see this whole setting, you know, all these little shops and stands. Like, look at this, just all of this practical. And yet, she lets him do it. I do like, at this point, the TIE fighters are just kind of firing willy-nilly. Just like, oh, we're just going to make passes and blow this whole place up. I do like that they're kind of getting rid of those old stupid gender tropes of like, oh, like the guy's like, oh yeah, is the girl okay? It's like, yeah, she's fine. The guy's not okay. There we go, a little hint to bigger fans of Star Wars. I didn't know right away, but... And there we go. Big reveal of the Millennium Falcon, which I still posit might be a cool looking ship, but a very scary ship to fly, seeing as you kind of sit in the top right-hand corner of it. Imagine trying to park this thing, you know. Just saying, you would not tight close quarters, you know. Now, one thing that I think, if you weren't a huge fan of Star Wars or you hadn't seen A New Hope before this, a lot of these nostalgia plays might be lost on you. You might be like, okay, this is a cool big ship. It's kind of weird looking. You probably would know it's a Millennium Falcon, but like him being in the gunner's seat, flying around as he is, or kind of moving around in that way, might be lost on you. It's still pretty cool. Kind of cartoony in that delivery there. This whole sequence does remind me a lot of Star Trek, though. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's the way it's all done up. Another thing I've also wondered about in Star Wars, they have shields, but you never really see the shields. They're just there. Some sort of energy displacement things, but I don't know. Such a crazy Hail Mary plan, but it just might work. I'm glad the Millennium Falcon's still kicking after years of not flying, apparently. And her scraping on everything. BB-8 showing off another ability there. That's pretty cool. I like watching a little... Anything with a grapple hook, man. Stabilization wire? I don't know. Dang, the Millennium Falcon can turn on a dime. There you go. He's got some practice. There you go. I believe it. And the the scavengers are immediately on it. That's great. I do like the look of the TIE fighter pilots. Another thing that makes this flight a little more believable is that Rey would know this area very, very well, so doing some of these crazy stunts probably would work out for her. But she's also Force sensitive, which makes her a much better pilot. But again, think if you were flying in here, and you're on the very right-hand side, I'd be smashing into everything, personally. Pretty great. She doesn't even say, like, fire now. It's just like, he knows what to do. Ah. Pretty good little chase sequence there. Just what it needs to be. What if BB would have just said right now, he is definitely not with the Resistance. Can't trust him. Rey. Yeah. She's a fighter, a mechanic, a pilot, a Force user, so she doesn't need buddies. Yeah. Another expectation subversion here with Kylo dealing with this guy. You're like, oh, he's gonna kill this guy. Kind of see the red lightsaber in his guard or in his mask there for a second. It looked like with the light out burned off it. Kind of shown off it. Kind of a baby, a whiny baby in this moment. I thought it was kind of funny though. So he's like, instead of killing, one of my men, I'm just gonna destroy these computers. But still. So that right there kind of alludes that he, like, has a feeling towards who this person could be. They do a great job, though, of showing that Kylo, even though he is kind of a whiny baby and kind of throws tantrums like that, he's still a powerful person. Again, BB-8, just every little characteristic and mannerism, so good. Droid, please. Again, doesn't seem like a thing you'd say in this world, but hey, alright. This galaxy. The little thumbs up, so good. Great stuff. Oh, Finn. Trying too hard, buddy. So here comes the sequence of the film I think is potentially just like the weirdest and just kind of unnecessary. It's not that the characters we see here are not cool and great. It's just that the action sequence that follows seems a little too, again, Star Trek-y, don't need it, kind of weird. BB-8 must weigh a bit. I mean, when he landed earlier, he did so with a thud. Seems like a flaw in the Stormtrooper mask, but The return of two of our heroes. Pretty cool to see him. If only I didn't know that Harrison Ford kind of broke his leg because one of the Millennium Falcon doors smashed on it, and also ended up breaking J.J. Abrams' back because he tried to assist Harrison Ford getting out of that situation. Scene might be a little more magical, but still. In a lot of ways, I feel personally that Harrison Ford kind of carries this movie. His his portrayal of the character, especially an old, grizzled version, is so great. So much animation in his face. Chewie just kind of shaking off the whole war hero thing. Again, if you weren't a fan or didn't know the previous ones, they do an okay job of at least setting up some of this backstory stuff there. If you're like, who is this guy? Like, oh, okay, cool. It's very strange to me that after all these years and after everything that went down with Luke, Leia, and Han, even kind of hearing the backstory of Kylo Ren, that Han and Luke didn't stay in touch somehow, like just for emergency, sake. It just seems very odd to me. Like, why not? A little bit of utility with those stabilization wires. Yep, and they're stupid big CGI monsters. Ugh. Not looking forward to this. And again, some fun banter between those two, but you can basically make out what Chewie would be saying to him, which is just well done on the writing there. Basically, the cannon fodder from Team A. And cannon fodder from Team B. This also feels very kind of Star Trek-y in the look and execution. I don't know if it's just how these other guys look or what. Still. Then why do you keep trusting him with deals then, Concha Club? Okay, it's pretty specific, but good thing you know. Han, you need better security on the ship, man. If you didn't lose your crew to those Raptors or whatnot. So, an interesting plan that does go awry a bit. Yeah, see, the design of these things, while kind of interesting, just big CGI glob of teeth and tentacles. Like, look at it roll around. Just... it doesn't work for me. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. But Han Solo not above just murdering somebody if he needs to. Really cool set design, though. Definitely real. It's great. Doesn't feel kind of labyrinth in nature and how they show it off here. And now we get to watch Finn scream some more. Why this one decides to tentacle drag him instead of eat him immediately, I do not know. Very well timed. Again, Force user, so or Force sensitive at least at this point. So she could do that. I think if she would have mistimed that though, oh boy. And she just says that was lucky, just kind of downplaying her own abilities. Chewie using that bowcast that sends people flying. I like that Han shows immediate concern for Chewie before saying like, "Oh, this is cool. Like, this gun's cool." But Chewie does take that hit, and that's also interesting that he can take a hit like that in the arm, and he's gonna be pretty okay. He's like, "Pass the torch to the new generation, Han." It's another great line right there. I never asked that question until after I've done it. Another little homage there to Luke's training gear from A New Hope. And she already knows more about the Falcon than he does. It seems kind of wrong. I've been calling it Falcon, but apparently they call it Falcon. I don't know. Now here we get the next Death Star, Starkiller base. Another super weapon. Now, again, talking about things I'm hopeful for in Last Jedi, is Snoke here getting featured a little bit more. Andy Serkis, one of the greatest actors of our age, just needs more time in the spotlight. Supreme Leader Snoke. That's a mouthful. That's something we didn't get a lot of, or at all really in the prequels, or even in the regular trilogy, is kind of Sidious's training of Darth Vader, which would be cool to see Ren being trained by Snoke. Also, seeing that was a hologram, that's pretty great too, because initially I remember being very, very afraid that that's how big Snoke was going to be, and I thought, oh, what if they want to do a lightsaber battle with Snoke? And it's like, oh, he's like 30 or 40 feet tall, but very good use of, kind of showing off how big and scary you are, but, just putting on a show. I feel like mostly for fixing the ship, you just rip parts out of it. I don't know. Seems kind of odd. No, I do know. That's what you do. Rip off pieces. Finishing up the game, R2 and Chewie had. So again, this movie does play a lot on nostalgia, or preys on it. And I wonder if any diehard Star Wars fans got to a point where they're like, okay, you're just kind of shoving it down my throat at this point. That term there, mumbo jumbo, apparently was one that Alec Guinness used a lot back in the day to discuss his lines he had as Obi-Wan Kenobi back in the original trilogy. But seeing Han Solo, somebody who's very cynical about that, kind of become a true believer just because he witnessed it time and time again. It's kind of cool in this one. He's old and grizzled, but he's accepting. This movie does a good job, too, of moving at a pretty quick pace. It's over 2 hours long, but we are moving, from planet to planet, set piece to set piece. We're not dawdling too long. We do kind of spend a little more time on Jakku, maybe, than you need to, but... And she wouldn't think that, because she's never been off the desert planet. It's kind of get Alderaan vibes here and Naboo vibes. A little bit from lush, vibrant forest next to the water. I love that Han just throws that right back in his face. A little more wisdom from our once brash smuggler. The story will never get enough of. These two would have made a pretty great, kind of trilogy. Just trying to kind of push her away after she's all excited about it. I love it. His character is so great. He's warm and friendly, but he's also kind of standoffish. But you can tell he's got the heart of a big old teddy bear. A lot of flags up here. Now, apparently, we have a few, like Boba Fett's Mythosaur skull, so Mandalorians, Zero the Hutt's Black Sun tattoo flag, and Hondo Anoka from the Rebels TV show. Apparently there's also a 501st on there too. Could denote the 501st, kind of, or Vader's first eventually, but a bunch of clones that became stormtroopers, or the fan group who is recognized here in the States, I believe. Another callback here, Cantina stuff. Lots and lots of practical things going on here, except for Maz, obviously. Maz immediately establishing some interesting ties to Han Solo and Chewie. But I do like that a lot. She's kind of warm and inviting. This guy is so cool looking. Big, like, kind of puppet costume thing. Another fun thing about being here in the cantina is that there are people playing both sides. Not safe anywhere. And there it is, old Star Killer, like, a few times bigger than the Death Star, shoots 5 laser beams. Ugh. Enough super weapons, please. Now, Darth Vader, if you guys don't know me, is probably one of my favorite characters, not only in Star Wars, but of all media. And kind of that tie to Kylo is one of my favorite things about Kylo. Now, him saying, show me, the power of the darkness, and so I can finish what you started. I'm not sure if Kylo's misled. He doesn't understand that Vader wanted to stop, the Sith, or if it's saying help me figure out how to destroy all Jedi and Sith, to bring complete and utter balance to the Force. A weird and kind of interesting aspect to Maz, kind of being able to change her goggles like that and really punch up her eyes, The CGI is good on Maz. It's still very noticeable. Nice of Han to let him keep that blaster. I get that Finn wants to leave, but he'd be much safer if he just stuck it out with Rey. Having Rey stand up a little bit higher here, interesting juxtaposition and kind of, putting her, morally above him. And not, not only physically in this moment. Pretty cool. Little touch. If Rey could just use the Jedi mind trick on Finn there, that'd be great. His mind's probably not weak enough for that, though. You want to stay here with me and help me on my mission, And it's the last time we ever saw Finn. Now here's the moment that a lot of people, primarily obviously diehard fans, really like to dissect this little dream sequence. Now there's a lot going on here. Most kind of prominently featured besides the Knights of Ren, is kind of seeing Bespin, that hallway that Luke and Vader fought in Empire Strikes Back. Now, what they did to kind of get some of the lines here is they actually had Ewan McGregor come in and say a line. They also took the word "afraid" that Alec Guinness has said back in the old Star Wars movies, and they just took that, and then they took the Rey out of "afraid" to put that in there. Pretty crazy digital mastery and kind of trickery here. The real question is, how the heck did Maz get that lightsaber? Last time we saw it, it was in Luke's clutched and severed hand falling down from Bespin. Probably going to be a little short film on it somewhere at some point. The lightsaber that slaughtered many younglings. A little Yoda in there too. Luke and R2. Right there. The afraid Rey thing. You shouldn't touch things that aren't yours, Rey. The reveal here that Maz's eyes are actually quite small and that her goggles kind of leave an imprint. A fascinating character to look at. Maz is another character that is considered, I think, force sensitive to some degree. Maz kind of plays this pseudo Obi-Wan / Yoda kind of feel. Rey's kind of like a video game character. She kind of can do everything, and she's also gifted many things. She was given a sword, a gun, a ship, more or less. And now she's just scared. She's like, I'm out. And I guess that would be kind of intimidating and terrifying to go through like a dream sequence like that. I don't know exactly where she's going, but... I always think of a certain member of the Easy Allies when I see this now. It's great, though. And I do mean that in a term of endearment. Bradley Ellis kind of likes to quote this in a different way. But this guy really does nail it. Domhnall Gleeson, I believe his name is. Very, evil, corrupt army, murderous. They're all just like, yep. Also pretty crazy how many Force Order members there are who are okay with the complete and utter annihilation of, I think, 5 separate planets here. Kind of getting to see the full power of this, fully operational battle station or whatnot. And seeing that they probably had roughly, I don't know, it was like 20 years or so in between this and Return of the Jedi to build this thing. Could be done. And people looking at it and realizing and screaming, like, yeah. Basically, this movie's saying we aren't doing politics. We are blowing up all of politics. Now, it's kind of looked like the main planet, which name is escaping me at this moment. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Coruscant, but I don't believe it is. The imminent sound of the TIE fighters. Such a great noise. I can't get over that. It's so good. Kind of a shot there, a little reminiscent of a old Vietnam War film right there. You could just tell me quickly. It'd be cool if Han grabbed it, because Han has wielded it before. Back on Hoth. Another thing that this movie does a really good job of is we kind of talked about Jakku being, a real set and throughout, but being these real locations too. So Fortress, CG kind of crumbling apart there. It looks pretty good, but still. Her running through the forest, though, and all these kind of scenes in it, also really good, giving a realistic feel to this galaxy, There you go. Showing her her novice, but she's like, wow, I just shot and killed a guy. I do like the look of her gun. Very cool. What happens if you accidentally blew up the droid, though, and, like, your bombing run? You ever think about this, guys? Hey. Again, kind of emphasizing some of the gritty warness of all this, if that's a word. Han Solo showing that he still got it. Doesn't even have to look. Come on, man. What did you think? Now, I will say the lightsabers in this movie are a little weird. They kind of hum a little bit more. Even the blue one. I know Kylo's is supposed to be unstable, kind of like himself, but we'll get to that in a second. Chewie having no gun here, and Han taking this from him. What a jerk. If only he would have tried that out like 20 years ago. Now, originally, I believe this is supposed to maybe be Captain Phasma who fights him here, but apparently this guy used to be a comrade of his. Would have been nice to see that in a flashback or something. Now, obviously, Finn is a novice as well, but when it comes to, like, a lightsaber. But the lightsaber fighting we see later on is also, even from Kylo, is not super great. Probably just because he's toying with people. But hoping to see stronger lightsaber choreography like we saw in the prequels going forward. And that guy was just about to kill Finn. Good work, Han. Kind of a cool reveal of the Resistance squadron of X-Wings here. And that beautiful John Williams theme just kicking in. Just makes you want to go to battle. Yeah. And there he is. Poe Dameron with a cool helmet. I love it. Leader of the Black Squadron, I believe. Yeah, if I was a stormtrooper and picked up a lightsaber, I'd be turning that thing on immediately. And here we see Poe Dameron doing what he does best. My boy. Look at him. Takes like 4 or 5 TIE fighters right there and a bunch of stormtroopers. Oh man, he takes out a ton. Jeez. Fun little tracking shot there. Kind of. Yeah. And he's having a good time too, which I really appreciate. You know, even though it's his life or death situation, he enjoys, you know, being there, and this is what he was kind of born to do. Kind of this claustrophobic setting here out in the forest, which is pretty great, especially if you're a lightsaber wielder. Kylo kind of playing the part not only of Darth Vader, but of just kind of like a scary, murderous villain, you know, from like a horror movie slowly approaching. Kind of doubling down on what we saw with the blaster stuff beforehand, this kind of force paralysis. Quite a nifty ability. Like I said, you can kind of see that Kylo's sword, a bit unstable, kind of like himself. Kind of hoping to see that change, you know, in subsequent films, become more honed, but who knows? Kind of a little bit of a Harry Potter oclumency vibe from these types of things, where it's kind of like, I infiltrate your mind, you infiltrate mine in return kind of thing. For sleep, that's also very good. Kylo has a lot of powers. Kind of begs the question, what else can you do with the Force? Kind of one of the better moments, I think, from him, kind of using all that raw emotion, because he wanted to get out of here, but he wanted Rey to come with him because he does care about her, and just kind of being completely helpless to actually rescue her or do anything for her in any meaningful way at this moment. But as you can see, they don't really talk about it too much. The Resistance still quite a powerhouse. The First Order having to pull back. Pretty great. And good old Leia. And 3PO. I almost feel like the red arm thing is to just sell people on like that comic where he actually gets the red arm, but still. Chewie kind of, embracing Leia there. I like that a lot. They should have done that later on in the movie as well, but... Again, a lot of questions, like why Han and Leia aren't still together. Cool to see basically the new Yavin 4, the Resistance base here, and hear that swelling score to say like, yep, we are the Resistance, here we are. John Williams, just a true artist. So cool. But again, instead of being inside of the Yavin base, we're outside here. Most of this base is, out in the hills here amongst the mountains. Very great. Showing off his new black X-Wing. Again, there's probably like a comic or something that shows how Poe got back to the Resistance, but oh well. Of course, though, they've got their internal base of operations. That little interchange right there is very good. Gives a little more to Chewie. It just also shows that Star Wars isn't just about the major players, that every person has a personality in Star Wars. One of the most heroic and beloved characters, maybe of all Star Wars in a certain way. But they just have him covered up in a cloth. Now, a lot of these questions we would have towards R2, are hopefully going to be answered going forward. So, again, we're seeing 1/3 of a finished product in a way. So I try to keep that in mind when I'm like, oh, what? How the heck? Why isn't R2? Why isn't he on right now? Why can't I talk to him? But I live with it. Now, Carrie Fisher had a very interesting life post Star Wars, and And you can kind of see that, there's been 40 years almost by the time they did this that they shot the first one. So there's a lot of changes, even in her kind of speech pattern. But you can even kind of tell that a little bit on James Earl Jones' version of Darth Vader in Rogue One. Now, the real question, too, that I have with the Rebellion, the Empire, the First Order, the Resistance, is the people who are still very dedicated to, the Empire and the Imperial ways. How many more of them were there left after the annihilation of multiple Death Stars, It's kind of like, I want to know that movie that kind of does bridge the gap between 6 and 7. That shows, the remnants of that kind of come together and coalesce to make this new thing. Still a lot of them, apparently. Now, this goading, I wish he hadn't taken his mask off for this, because instead of revealing something scary, it's just a regular guy's face. Makes him a little less menacing. Does have the same hairstyle as Anakin. And those presumably could be the ashes of that Vader helmet there. That's some nice hair, though. My hair would not do that. Such a creep. Oh, okay. Alluding to Luke. Kind of fun right there. I imagine filming this scene would be very strange. Especially if you're doing multiple takes. Just without the music and the sound effects. But a good job by both actors there. Filling in what we cannot see. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm not afraid. It would have been kind of cool if she would have force pushed him backwards, but maybe it would have been a little too much. Also, in some ways, he's very powerful, I would love to see Darth Vader do some of that stuff. Mass paralysis around a room. That'd be cool. It's one of those moments where you kind of think, is this kind of a Sidious situation where he's trying to think, oh man, maybe I could have a much more powerful apprentice. This stormtrooper played by Daniel Craig. Yes, the current James Bond as of this recording. If you listen in very closely, you can hear his voice. Kylo also not looking super good without the hood up. His little helmet, kind of adorable, more than anything. Kind of straightens up there. It's great. A great moment. She could have heard stories about Jedi being able to mind trick people, so that's probably why she attempted that, not just because she felt like doing it. And another tantrum. Kind of just shows off how unhinged he is. A fun little moment, though, between these stormtroopers. Just kind of like, nope, 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 nope. Which I really like. Again, showing that Star Wars is also about the little guy. You know, every person has a place in Star Wars. And my question, here, and or I guess my hypothesis or theory on how Starkiller Base works, drawing in solar energy, but maybe mixing with like kyber crystals, the same stuff as the Death Star and lightsabers, could be that. Admiral Akbar! Oh, he's so great. Admiral Akbar. I love you so much. I do like Han just saying, yep, it's just bigger, we can blow it up, Exactly. Thankfully, Finn also worked on Starkiller Base. But maybe many people did. I guess the galaxy's a big place, so they could have built this in secrecy once again, but I need to get some more rebel tipsters in the actual ranks of the stormtroopers. You can really feel the history between these two, not just as characters, but also as actors, just real people. You can tell that when they have an exchange of words like that, that they've known each other for a long time. And even though they might not always get along, you know, on screen or off or whatever, that in the past they have quite a deep and storied history between them. It's endearing. Kylo not underestimating his opponent now, kind of saying, like, you know, the longer she's alive, the more powerful she's going to get with the Force. And I think as we go on in this series, we're going to see, too, or in this trilogy, that Force users can gain a multitude of Force abilities that makes them much more potent and deadly. Now, how Han's able to stop out of light speed for that, I have no idea. Millennium Falcon, pretty tough ship to be taking those trees down. Now, a lot of times in movies, when I see a cliff edge like that, I always know that it's like either our heroes are going to stop at the very edge of it, or they're just going to jump off. It's never really scary. But they don't really hang on it this too much in this one, which I appreciate. Just knows right away that Han Solo's there. Here we go again, talking about on location and stuff. You know, we started in Jakku with like the desert planets, and then we moved over to Maz's Cantina and that forest inhabited place, and now we're here on Starkiller Base, snow, ice. Kind of nice. Just immediately saying, like, you idiot, basically. Kind of wish he would have given like a warning look back to Finn when he called him Solo, just like, hey kid, don't call me that. Hux in a lot of ways is more intimidating than Kylo in some of these scenes. Oh, Phasma, you looked so cool. I hope you have better moments later on. Yeah, see, like, that right there doesn't seem like something that someone in Star Wars would say. It seems a little too, like, modern. Kind of grating on me, personally. It's like, it just kind of takes me out of it. That's all. Those little moments like that. It's like modern-day taunting. It's like, what? Intuitive protagonist, though, is nice to see. He's not just going to sit there and get captured. She's going to adapt and overcome, as I would counsel her to do. Interesting to see the inner workings here of some of this machinery, kind of using it to her advantage. Even Phasma's like shiny outfit, her helmet's got kind of these marks all over it too, like she's been in battle. And see, that's fun because obviously it's a homage, or an homage, but you also see Finn kind of saying like, yeah, you know what, I used to work in the sanitation, so yeah, there definitely is. Except it's hard for me to believe that Phasma would actually drop the shields and destroy everything that they've worked so hard to build. Now, we do kind of get that comparison between the Death Star and Starkiller Base to know how actually big this thing is. It's actually like a planet as compared to like a moon. But They don't really do scale as well in this film to like something like Rogue One. There we got kind of a shot there of the X-Wing, kind of like a, you know, GoPro on it. They do a lot of shots like that in Rogue One as well. Love that. While being an X-Wing pilot would be really fun and cool, I would get really, really sick and be terrified the whole time. Just appreciating these big sets that they actually built out. Kind of a safety hazard with that bridge up there without having any railings. I'm sure Joe would comment on that if he were here. How would Finn not know what that means? I just don't understand that. Rey demonstrating her climbing skills that she developed back on Jakku, climbing around old Star Destroyers. Kind of cool to see them build a platonic friendship, at least to start here. Not forcing anything more than that. Han keeping people back on track here. He's like, alright, let's go. Come on. I like that guy. Again, they kind of just shoot over to some of these guys, even for just a brief moment, to appreciate like the costume design or the, you know, practical effects of some of these creatures. It's just really nice to see that, because the budget for these types of things, you know, is extremely high. I think it's like 200 million for this movie, sparing no expense, as it were. See, once again, you just, to fix things or open doors and stuff, you just rip things out, you know. And it's not Han's first time with Chewie planting explosives, which is kind of fun to think about some of the things they've been getting up to in the past, you know, 20 years or even before that. They might be smugglers, but they're not above being saboteurs as well. Some thermal detonator action, I think. J.J. Abrams, a fan of magnetic explosives. If you look back at Mission Impossible 3, I believe they have some of those types of things in there as well. I'll never forget seeing this for the first time with my family back in theaters. I think it was right around Christmas. And kind of getting to this moment and thinking like, uh-oh, here we're going to have a confrontation here. And my mom is quite a big Harrison Ford fan. So when we get to the moment that I'm thinking of, I will tell you what I told her. how every parent looks at their teenager. They're just like, no. So when Han walks out here, I leaned over to my mom. Like I said again, aforementioned, that she's a big Harrison Ford fan. I said, Mom, I'm sorry. Because I didn't know this going into this, but usually if you walk out on a one-person catwalk with somebody, especially in Star Wars, it's usually not a happy ending. Kind of refers to people like how Darth Vader does too. It doesn't really refer to anybody as like mom, dad. It's kind of like, oh, you are just this person. Or like, you know, Vader not even referring him to himself as Anakin Skywalker. If only Rey would have just taken a shot at him. Harrison Ford, once again, killing it. He's been kind of understanding and fun and, you know, jokey for most of the film. He has his serious moments, but this is kind of the epitome of all that. To see him kind of, that sigh of relief almost and excitement, just kind of like, oh my gosh, okay, you know, there he is. What a weirdo. Just the absence of music in this scene is quite unsettling. Now, I'm not sure if showing Kylo's face in half red and not kind of shows the dichotomy of him being torn between the light and the dark, but then showing Han's face in all red is kind of like a signification to Kylo to fall completely into the dark side is to kill him. Again, I could be reading way too much into this, but Star Wars is very poetic. So, could be. The music kind of picks up here a little bit hopeful. Just take it. Right now, his hands are open. Now, some people like that the sun kind of going away, you know, to darkness kind of foreshadows this turn. I think it's a little too on the nose, personally. But it does kind of play up the light, the lighting in this room. In Harrison Ford's mind, I feel like he's thinking, no, thank you. Now people don't have to talk to you about Star Wars anymore. A lot of characters fall to their quote-unquote death in Star Wars. Unless we get confirmed kills, you can never completely rule it out. Except we do see Leia being shooken by this, kind of a lot like how Yoda was shaken by the deaths of all those Jedi at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Now, we keep in mind that Wookiee bowcaster usually sent people flying, showing that he has some sort of kind of fortitude, as it were. Chewie going on a killing spree, which is fun to watch. Keeping the plan, Chewie. I love it. And the thing that people have to consider and remember is like, why doesn't Chewie shoot him? Well, he's known this guy. He's probably held, Kylo or just Ben right there as a baby. Like, it's nice to see a snowy forest, though. It's a nice backdrop to any lightsaber fight. Kind of really focusing in on the color. Now you'll notice that there was a scene maybe from the trailers where it shows Kylo kind of ignite his lightsaber, kind of a third-person shot of him from the back, but here they're just already into it. He doesn't have his helmet or anything. It's just caught up. They're like, you feeling kind of hurt? So these lasers must not cauterize people. Like when they actually hit, they must like a bleed. Why would you? What are you doing? Come on, Finn. I would have shot at him first. Seems to be his new nickname. Everywhere he goes, people call him Traitor. So Kylo's been damaged here and hurt, and he's clearly a better swordsman. One thing I've always loved about lightsaber fights is that, music or no, at any moment there is the potential for you to lose a limb, your head, your life, everything, if you screw up just once, unlike a regular sword fight. And how badly that would hurt using that cross guard. Pretty great. The sound design here, pretty good. And he survives that. Now, I've heard Mark Hamill talk about this scene and say that if there were ever a moment to reveal Luke in a really dramatic fashion in this film, this would have been it. Fly past him, fly past her, and go into Luke's hand would have been an incredibly crowd-pleasing moment. Unfortunately, they do not do that here. But still, this is more about Rey. This is passing the torch, literally, here. Now, it's more believable that she would be potentially a better swords woman, as it were. Because she's practiced with melee weapons, and she's not the best still, but Kylo's been hurt. And we're not really familiar with how good Snoke is of a swordsman himself. Probably learned a lot that Luke taught him as a boy for Ben, but nice to see an alien species though with the X-wings there. Another homage here to the trench run. Never understood why people had to go through the trench like this, but why you couldn't just go any other way and you would have to fly through all this first, but again, seeing Poe doing what he does best. He's at his most powerful when he's sitting in an X-wing, which I love. It's great. But that's his one thing, as the one thing he's good at, and just being a cool guy. Kind of a little bit of jumping back to where we were on that Maz Kanata's planet. Kind of that little moment there, feeling a little enclosed with the lightsabers. But this lightsaber fight is mostly just hacking down trees. Not super compelling. Also knowing that we have these two characters who we know are going to be parts of a trilogy, not go down here. Whereas Han Solo kind of fulfills the Obi-Wan Kenobi role in this first film of dying to the villain. It's a weird time to make this pitch, buddy. That's all I'm saying. Be great if she tried the mind trick on him. She's like, "You'll leave me alone, please. Thank you." Kylo kind of at the end of his rope here, not really doing a good job of displaying his true power. Always love a kick to the chest in a sword fight. I really love it. A little cooler than throwing somebody, like most villains do in a movie. They'll pick someone up by the throat and just kind of throw them, but I like this better. Now finish him off is what I would say is the double tap rule. Getting closer and closer to the look of Anakin Skywalker there with the scar. But a convenient fissure will make it so that these characters will have to fight again in the sequel, Or, eventually. So Phasma's gonna get court-martialed, right? I do like how Hux is such an important person that he gets to come into that chamber where nobody else is allowed besides Kylo, and he kind of will interrupt even the conversations between Kylo and Snoke. Nice to have one of the not Force users who's also on the dark side, not necessarily using any abilities or a lightsaber, but also a military force. Still be very intimidating. So again, I've probably drawn many parallels to it, but lots of similarities between this and A New Hope. Similar set pieces, similar locations, similar characters. Not that that's a bad thing. I think that Disney had to kind of garner the love of that fan base again for people who were burned by the prequels. And this was the best way to do it. My biggest hope, I think, going on with this trilogy and the other ones, that you see these kind of spin-offs and things like that, is that we'll see new things, pay homage to where it's best, but at the same time, don't feel like you need to just keep doing the same thing again and again and again, because it makes money and it's easy. Because this movie, not really risky. not really taking any big chances. Yes, they did kill off a main protagonist from a trilogy that's 40 years old, but they don't really do anything super crazy or out of left field. That's what I'm hoping for when we get The Last Jedi. And, you know, Episode 9. Here is a missed opportunity, like I said before. Chewie should have probably gone up to Leia and said something. You know, just kind of moves past her. There's more of a moment between these two, which is kind of odd. Again, once we find out Rey's lineage, maybe this will make more sense to us. But as of this recording, Rey isn't related to anybody. And the fact that Chewie didn't even stop and say, hey, Leia, like, or just kind of look at her and like, oh, Han is gone. The biggest thing connecting us is gone. And you see, but Chewie's still affected by it, clearly. Now here's the question. Why did R2 come, you know, back online? Like, what's going on with that? Who awoke him? You know, it wasn't Luke. Starkiller Base blew up, but was he like, all right, I'm not going to help with this next, like, Death Star thing. You know, they can figure this out, but once that's done, I'm coming back. Or is it like a quest line in a video game? Before you can get to the next step, the Find Luke quest, you have to get enough XP and level up. You know, hopefully there's more to it than that, obviously. So this map is still kind of a mystery as well. So R2 has most of it, but then they kind of took a piece and separated that. Hopefully Luke will shed some light on that and say, hey, this is the reason I did this. They would send the entire fleet to find Luke. That's what I would do. I'd be like, go find him, everybody. Kind of another theme you'll see here a lot in Star Wars and kind of repeating here is that you have these characters who come together, separate for quite some time, then come back together. And not even just like, you know, time, the passage of time, but just kind of just across the galaxy. It's a nice dress there, Leia. I like it. I like the design. Got good taste. Again, I really wish I could have seen Han and Rey interact a little bit more. I think the best moments that Rey really gets are those little tidbits here and there with him. Father-daughter relationship. Because you don't really get to see Han play the father. You know, he's obviously Kylo's dad, but we don't really get that. So getting to see just a little peek behind the curtain of what, you know, the father figure, dad, Han Solo could be. Pretty good stuff. Now, I remember being in theaters, again, for this portion of the film specifically, and kind of thinking, oh, Luke Skywalker. All right, we're going to go see Luke. You know, maybe that's just going to be the ending here. Like, hey, here we go, establishing a shot. Luke's here somewhere. Let's find Luke. And you can hear kind of Rey's theme blending into one of the main themes there. Kind of the marriage of those things John Williams does such a good job of. There again, kind of like a hummingbird. But this long, slow build-up to seeing Luke. Again, I would have loved to have seen him kind of appear during one of these action sequences and kind of done some crazy cool Jedi thing. But this is good too. Now, this is all, again, filmed on location, which is really beautiful and really enveloping. It's really great to give that this kind of galaxy far, far away is still something that resides in a reality of some sort. One thing that was kind of missing from the prequels, a lot of green screens in those. Not to say that they don't have green screens in here, but a lot less. Definitely a much more grounded feel in some of these moments. This build up here, kind of her walking up, the music's changing. It was her theme, but we're starting to get a little bit more mysterious feel. Kind of reminds me a little bit of when Gandalf had to climb up to check on the tombs of the Nazgul, as it were, in the Hobbits. On I think it was the first or second Hobbit. And the big reveal. Is he a gray Jedi? Is he toting the line? Who knows? I'm going to find out soon. I have mixed feelings about Luke in the original trilogy. But it is good to see him, and his look is great. Kind of, again, the Anakin hairstyle, which I really do dig. But just his ability to act in this scene without speaking one word. Astonishment, suspension of his disbelief, kind of getting ripped away. And her just kind of saying, please come back, And he realizing probably that Han's gone, and that as much as he wants to be away from all of this, he can't escape this life. This is who he is. It's great. And there you have it, everybody. Star Wars The Force Awakens, Episode 7. Moved pretty quickly, though, for a movie that's a little over 2 hours. Again, that helps a lot, that we get to move from place to place to place. A lot of new characters showing up. A lot of old faces, though, too. A lot of paying respect to the original, but hopefully going to branch off in a different way moving forward. I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary. I plan to do a lot more like it. And I won't always be here alone. Hopefully I have Joe or Levi join me for one of these types of things. But if you do enjoy it, please tweet at me. Just @GoCritical. And say, hey, I like the commentary. Or, I want to see you do movie commentary of this. There's plenty of movies that you guys know, that I know and love, that let's just say I'll probably do those as well. If you enjoyed it a lot, please share it around with your friends. And if you want to support us, check us out on patreon.com/criticalreviews to see how you can support us and get some cool avatars. And, we'll get more commentaries down the line. So thank you guys so much for joining me here. Probably do a few more of these, in the next year. But like I said, let me know which ones you want to see. Thank you so much. And just remember to adapt and overcome. I'll see you next time.